In the aftermath of the second nuclear war of 1957, many weird things happened. Perhaps, perhaps the weirdest was the fact the supernatural creatures of folklore, the werewolves and vampires, were suddenly real. As a result, I grew up staying in nights. At least I was supposed to stay in. Now, werewolves were pretty rare, and were only around during the period of the full moon, and I wanted to see one. Not that you could walk around on nights when the moon was full. There was a curfew, and people my age were not permitted to be at large. Still, where there's a will, there's a way. During my first year of high school, when I was 14, I got my hands on a telescope in order to do a little astronomy. Lunar astronomy. I asked my mom if it would be okay to set up the telescope on our third-floor balcony. "You can't see the moon from there," she said. "Besides, if people see you, they'll think you're a peeping Tom." "Well, I'll go up on the roof then. I'll be able to see the moon, and no one will be able to see me." "No, I don't want you going up there." "Why? No one can see me up there." "I said no." But where there's a will, there's a way. Mom worked on the line in an auto plant, usually 4 to midnight. She would phone me during the course of her shift to make sure I was home and being a good boy. But she never called after 9:30, which meant I'd have 2 hours to play with, up on the roof. My chance came in October, when there was a full hunter's moon, and I decided to go werewolf hunting. We'd had werewolf scares during the previous full moons. My idea was to set up the telescope on the roof so I could scan the city, and if there was a werewolf or police action, I would have a bird's eye view. The moment I stepped out onto the roof, I could hear the air raid sirens announcing a werewolf at large. I quickly set up the telescope and had an eagle-eye view of the show unfolding below me. At first, all I could see was a stream of cop cars, sirens blaring, red lights flashing, racing up and down the nearby streets. But of any werewolf, there was no sign at all. I swung the telescope around, trying to get a glimpse of what they were chasing, and scanning the nearby train tracks, I saw it. It was a huge gray wolf, standing at least 7 feet high, and running on its hind legs, running like a human being. I could see its head, which had the muzzle and pointed ears of a wolf, and glowing red eyes that seemed to be staring towards me, and I realized with a start that despite the huge distance between us, the thing could see me. The werewolf stared directly into my eyes and howled. Overwhelmed by fear, I picked up the telescope, then ran down the stairs, down 10 stories and back to the apartment. I didn't know how it could see me. I only know it did. Did it know where I lived? But that was impossible. But werewolves were impossible, or had been impossible. I wanted to hide, and did the only thing I could think of. I went to bed and dreamed. I dreamed I was on Kerr Street, and the werewolf was there. There were no cops, nobody, just the werewolf. It was even bigger, at least 10 feet tall, with saliva drooling from its gaping maw. Somehow, I got inside the building. I ran for the open elevator, jumped in, and took it to the 13th floor. I didn't want the werewolf to know the floor where I lived. So I took it to the 13th floor, and when the elevator door opened, the werewolf was standing there, grinning, and its mouth was so wide, its teeth so sharp. I jumped back into the elevator and woke up. A woman was screaming, "My mom!" I jumped out of bed. My mom stood in the doorway, staring towards the balcony's glass door, where the werewolf was hanging onto the balcony rail, staring in at us with those flaming red eyes. Somehow it had managed to climb 3 floors to our apartment. We were both blinded by searchlights, followed by gunfire, automatic weapons. Mom grabbed me and we ran into the hallway, slamming the apartment door behind us. We spent the night with neighbors. Somehow the werewolf got away. The only sign of it was some bullet marks on the side of the balcony. Mom suspected I'd done something to attract the werewolf, but she never said anything directly. She didn't have to worry. From then on, I stayed in nights. No way would I leave the apartment after dark. I was too afraid the werewolf would see me, would find me, but it never did. Not that it left me unscarred. There were the dreams, or should I say nightmares, that persist to this day. I dream I'm out on Kerr Street and the werewolf is chasing me. No cops, nobody, just me and the werewolf. The werewolf is even larger, at least 10 feet tall, with saliva drooling from its gaping maw. Somehow I get inside the building. I run for the open elevator, jump inside, and take it to the 13th floor. I didn't want the werewolf to know the floor where I lived. So I take it to the 13th floor, and when the door opens, the werewolf is standing there, grinning, and its mouth is so wide, its white glowing fangs so sharp. I turn to go back in the elevator, but the door is closed. The werewolf opens its maw, the fetid stench of its breath almost knocking me over as it says, "Going down." Isn't that a howl? The moral of the story? You should always listen to Mummy. Karis knows how to read his 10 leaves. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and horror stories. This October, I thought I would present stories featuring such classic monsters as vampires and werewolves in honor of Halloween. Please let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed today's story. Till midnight. Cheers. Video footage used in today's video, which shows the full hunter's moon of October 2025, courtesy of Dr. Curious, while the music was the classic Ghost Processional by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.